Hi, and welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game. Brought to you by Fit to Curl, a sport-specific guide to training for the world's greatest game, by Olympic gold medalist Team Martin third, and of course, currently Alberta third, John Morris, with a bit of help from me, Dean Gemmell. With the curling season winding down for most of us, now is the time to start working on a fitness program that will pay off when you take to the ice next year. Fit to Curl has programs to help you become a better player. Get your copy at fittocurl.com or pick one up at your favorite pro shop. A Sports Center host and, more importantly, the morning man for curling on TSN, Bryan Mudryk, welcome to the Curling Show.
Hey, Dean, thanks for having me. How you doing?
Good. Well, thanks for slumming with me. I speak to hundreds of thousands of people all the time, and now you're speaking to a few less than that. But nonetheless, let's start with impressions of this Tim Hortons Brier. There's always concerns about Briers in Southern Ontario. Hamilton didn't go so well, but it looks like we had good crowds on the weekend in London, and more importantly, some good energy there.
No, absolutely. Crowds have been fantastic. We had, I remember actually even for the Hot Shots, it was really full. They had a lot of fans cheering, and obviously a lot of pro-Ontario. I know Richard Hart ended up winning, and he got a lot of crowd support. And it's been great, and I think it's, talking to a few organizers, it's been building up towards the weekend. I think they're definitely over 100,000 at this point, so crowd support's been great.
That's good to hear, and maybe the crowd to me, just in quick pans, looks a little less geriatric than we see at some curling events.
Yeah, well, it's nice London being a university town, so there's a little bit of a younger feel, but a lot of people in the seats, which is great to see. And it's been a fun city. I mean, the volunteers have been great, and they've treated us first class so far, so no complaints from that aspect. What
about the game you just covered, the morning game? Kevin Martin, probably not, and his crew, probably not too excited about getting out to a 3-down deficit after losing last night, but they sort of showed what they have and were patient and rallied and came back, right?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I was just sitting down with Mark Kennedy, their second, and we were just chatting over coffee, and that first 10, they were kind of scratching their heads going, man, but after those 2 misses in one, Kevin Martin didn't really miss a shot down the stretch for them. I mean, they gave up that 3, but that double, obviously, in 9 to count 3 was huge, and you could just see the relief on their faces in making that shot and kind of getting Kevin back on track. I mean, but if you've watched him, and I'm sure you have, and lots of people have, when Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday rolls around in this event, he really seems to find his top gear and takes it from there.
What about the ice so far? It's been a bit of a story. The frost during the first draw, of course, was a problem. That seems to be solved, but players still seem vexed by runs and changing conditions. It seems to be getting better, but, you know, I've had this conversation with a few of the top players on different teams, and while they think Hans is a great iceman, Hans is a great ice maker, Hans Withrich, one of the things they say is that he's stubborn, that he won't change when conditions demand it, and I'm sensing some frustration among the players about the ice.
There is a little bit. I mean, I have this conversation with a few guys. I mean, Mark's a great example, Mark Kennedy, and he said in his sheet today, and that was on sheet B, so it wasn't against the fans, it was the one in the middle of the middle sheets. He said there was just one path in particular. If you get on a little bit outside, it would run straight and would be about 5 feet faster. And if you got on the inside of it, it would be more normal. So there's a few tricky spots for sure. But, I mean, that's curling. And at the end of the day, both teams have to play with it. Both teams have to adjust to it. And I guess it's those teams with the experience that figure it out first are going to be more successful. And there was some talk, too, about the rocks maybe being the issue, and that was the problem. They've played with the MCA rocks from Manitoba for a long time at this thing. My understanding is that the CCA bought the Olympic rocks that were used last year, and they're going to be moved into play next year. But that being said, everybody has an opinion, obviously, but I mean, I think the ice is for the most part great. I think for the most part the rocks are good. I think there was just struggles early on in figuring out certain paths. Both skips were being, tricked up when it came to putting the ice down. I remember one interview we did with Brad Gushu at the 5th 10 break, and he just said, we asked him, is it the ice or the rocks? And he goes, I have no idea.
He said it was both. He said they weren't, yeah. Well, he said
he had no idea what was going on. But, I mean, they're figuring it out, and I don't think it's any surprise. You see the top 4 teams are, not to blow smoke up my own horn, but are the 4 teams I picked to make the playoffs are kind of at the top right now, and And I think that'll play itself out with the teams with the experience that have been here before. We'll probably figure it out, faster, and that'll result in some wins.
Well, to be fair to the ice conditions, I think for most curling fans, it's actually somewhat more interesting at times to have more challenging ice for these guys. But you just wanted to be fair. I thought Brad Jacobs had a tough break against Brad. I thought he threw his last two really well and didn't get anything out of them. So that's something you don't like to see. But I do like to see the guys challenged a bit by the ice. So that doesn't bother me too much.
Dean, I should mention too is you talked about they did bring in the dehumidifiers on, I believe it was Saturday, and I think it was Sunday night. They hooked them up but didn't turn them on, and I think it was Monday they actually had them on for the first time. So frost really hasn't been the issue anymore.
Yeah, no, frost has been solved, it seems.
So it's been pretty good. It rained a lot, and then it got cold here, and there was some snow. And now I guess in the next few days they're expecting more rain. So obviously then I'm assuming will be turned on.
Crank up those dehumidifiers again. Well, I was a little surprised actually. I thought the CCA would have those new rocks in play at this Brier. I don't know enough about the backstory on that, why they're not there. But the MCA rocks have certainly served guys well over the years. So I don't know if it's the rocks. I know Kevin thinks that. Hey, Brian, you're at the Brier now, but wasn't that long ago you were at the Scotties Tournament of Hearts in Charlottetown. Really, I thought a great final game, good for women's curling, and also the whole thing with Kathy O qualifying was certainly a programmer's dream for the guys at TSN, wasn't it?
It was pretty remarkable. I mean, I was at the Olympics in that facility, in that building. I think it held about 7,000 or 8,000 people, and it didn't matter who was playing. It didn't matter what draw it was. People were loud and screaming and doing the wave and cheering and shouting. It was a pretty wild atmosphere that I don't think curling has ever seen, ever. And I'll tell you what, the building on the night where Kathy O was taking on Jennifer Jones was loud. It was actually pretty cool for women's curling to have that kind of atmosphere. And it was obviously, if you watched or heard, it was pretty much pro Kathy O. She could have been mayor of Charlottetown that night because they were really rooting her on. And to her credit, she probably played one of the best games that we've ever seen. She made everything unreal for her team. Wasn't she? That night, she was making every shot. And I'm just trying to rewind the brain here, but I think it was that pick-out shot. Was that a 9?
For 2 and 9,
that she made? Oh, my goodness. That was something else. And then made, I think, the quiet double in 10 just to make sure kind of thing. Like, she made everything. The crowd went absolutely nuts, and it was really funny. One of the favorite moments, I guess, was at the kickoff banquet, and she was doing a speech, and of course the story was the Brad Gushue, Randy Furby fallout, and they were talking about them bickering back and forth in the media, and Kathy O pipes up, well, at least that doesn't happen in women's curling.
Yeah, I heard that.
It was pretty funny, and that game was pretty neat to watch, the Jennifer Jones Kathy O. Obviously, she wanted a better result throughout the week, but I think that was certainly a little bit of redemption for her.
How do you explain as a journalist? How do you explain the fact that Kathy O came out so much more popular out of the whole thing than Jennifer Jones?
In my opinion, I just think it was the way she handled it. At the Scotties, we talked with Jennifer about the decision, and we asked her, did you regret the timing of it, or did you regret how it was handled? And she really never addressed it. She never really kind of took the question head on and just said it. Here's the answer, and now it's over, and we'll move on.
No, I think I think she parses her comments so much she's a lawyer. She parses everything so much that as a fan, you think she's never genuine.
And I mean, I'll let the fans and yourself. I mean, people like that can read into it themselves. But just from what we asked her, just in my opinion, I just think if it would have just been a lot more upfront. Here's the situation. There it is. Let's move on.
Yeah,
but I don't know if she really, answered it. And Kathy, her credit, was just like, yeah, I was hurt. I was disappointed, yada, 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 but let's move on. I got a new team, and away we go. So I just think it was more along the lines of how it was handled. I mean, there's been worse things in life. I mean, let's get serious, right? It was just a cut from a team. I just think if you deal with it, answer the questions once, be honest about it, boom, move on, it's over.
Yeah, I think, one of the things, she kept saying that the team was stale, but when you get rid of one player, you're sort of saying that player was stale, right? I mean, if you all go your separate ways, then you can say the team was stale. But to say you were stale and you cut one player, to me, that was a bad comment, or the wrong way to address it.
And, Dean, if you look at the percentages, obviously I don't have them in front of me, but off the top of my head, if I'm not mistaken, But the last Scotties they won, she had the best numbers of the entire team. And out of thirds, if she wasn't number one, she was in the top three.
Yeah.
And always has been. I mean, if you look at Kathy O throughout the Scotties, throughout her career, she has always been flirting with all-star honors. But, I mean, if you want to give one to Jennifer Jones, I mean, they were all first-team all-stars. Yeah. And I give a lot of credit to young Caitlin Laws. You know, here's a rookie comes in. She didn't, you know, choose to be involved in all of this. And who's going to say no to join Team Canada?
Right.
You know, I mean...
No, she carried herself really well. I would actually say I'd say that Jennifer's team is better with her at third, to be honest. Well, I think Kathy was a great touch player. I think Kathy's a better skip in the women's game, to be honest.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what she does for a team in Manitoba next year. I mean, that young Bryan Mudryk that she had as her fifth, I mean, she can play.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. I don't know whether she forms a new team or what's going on there, but you know what I'm interested in is, TSN should send a crew to cover the Manitoba final.
You know, let's talk about that for a bit, because a lot of people have made noise about, you know, even having a. Has TSN ever considered doing a pre-Brier championship weekend? I know there's a lot of production issues, but if you could show the Alberta final and a bit of the Ontario final, those games are actually more exciting than, say, you know, PEI versus Kevin Martin, right? So. Well,
a lot of those questions are over my head, but I mean, all I can tell you, I'm pretty sure the provincial jurisdictions are all different, and then it's all sponsorship dollars too,
that's
right?
True.
I mean, so yeah, that's obviously a question not really for me to answer.
I always like to pretend these things are far less complicated than they are, but I mean, when you see a team battling for a Purple Heart, it's pretty exciting. So you know, I'd love to see that sometime. Hey, talking this relates to the Scotties and the Brier, the Team Canada issue. You brought that up in your Twitter feed a few times, and there was a bit with Kevin Martin today endorsing it at the Brier. I'm sensing you'd like to see it, and you sense that it's. You seem to think it's inevitable that it will be happening.
Yeah, I've had some conversations with some of the powers that be, and it just basically sounds it's not if, it's basically when. There's just a lot of factors at play. You know, number one, the whole beauty of the Brier, it's Canadian. It's a tradition. It's been around forever, and it involves each and every province, and that's kind of part of the beauty. So you really don't want to upset that balance. And then everybody says, oh, we'll just eliminate Northern Ontario. Well, then you look at all the tradition, you know, of the, you know, Al Hackner and I mean, young Jacobs has played outstanding the last few years. So my understanding is, and I mean, this still has to be voted on and talked about. There's still a long process, but they'll do something like they do in soccer, where there's going to be maybe a relegation round. So let's just hypothetically say, if the two worst provinces at the Brier this year, they'll get bumped down, and they'll have to play off to get back in, and that may leave a couple provinces out of the loop. But what I like about it, in the sense, is that let's just throw out the Yukon Northwest Territories, and let's say you're out of it, you know, by Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. Well, are you really going to be coming back to play hard? You know, maybe you are, or maybe you're thinking, you know what, we've only won 2 or we won 1, who cares? And I don't want to say that's what they're thinking, but I'm just saying, if you know that your province could be relegated, if you don't play well, do you really want that on your shoulders? Say, oh yeah, so-and-so had a terrible Brier, so now the province is relegated.
Well, and suddenly Jamie Cooey versus Eddie McKenzie is a big game.
Well, that's just it. And I'm not saying that. These guys are all very proud and they're competitive.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that, but it definitely brings those games, you know, to be a lot more of importance, so that it's not going to just be, you know, handshakes after 8 yens. You know, these guys are going to be playing really hard because they don't want to let their province down. And the nice thing about Team Canada, I mean, it's a no-brainer. So Kevin Cooey, one of the best in the world, is the world champion and can't even come back here to compete. And just imagine, you can market Kevin all year. You know, Kevin Cooey's team could have, you know, gone to, you know, photo shoots and the tickets and the whatnot. Come watch the world champ, you know, defend his title. And it's really nice for the organizing committee, wherever it may be, to pump these guys up, sell some tickets, you know, have some autograph appearances. And then can you imagine, you know, Kevin Martin, Kevin Cooey at the Brier, head-to-head, or so be it if it's Randy Furby comes out of Alberta, or whoever, you know.
It's tough to argue that that's not a good, those aren't good matchups to see at the Brier. I'm a traditionalist in some sense. I think you have to be awfully careful to mess with a good brand like the Brier. But I don't mind some of this stuff, some of the talk. I think the idea of just getting rid of Northern Ontario is really short-sighted. I mean, if you're going to do that, you may as well have a Maritimes rep. I mean, Northern Ontario deserves to be there as much as anybody. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think if they tread carefully, it might work out. But boy, you got to be careful because we don't have a lot of vehicles that work really well in curling, and the Brier certainly does.
Well, do you remember, Dean, right after that Kevin Martin won the Olympic medal, and these guys obviously on a high, so tired, exhausted from their run, they had a press conference in Halifax at the Brier. Yeah. And basically, the one thing Kevin Martin said the whole time was, okay, how is this fair? I just won 2 Briers back-to-back, undefeated, went to the Olympics undefeated, gold medal. How do I not have the right, at least give me the choice, to come back and defend my title? I haven't lost a game, and obviously it was 30 games last night. The winning streak was snapped, but why don't I have the right? And how can you really argue with that? I mean, he definitely has a valid point, and I guess time will tell. But I wouldn't be surprised by 2013, 2014, 2015, somewhere in there, that there'll be a Team Canada for men.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the biggest motivators. It's been, Gushu didn't play in the Brier either. You've got years when the Olympic team doesn't compete in the Brier, which is probably not right. But I hope they do it well and do it, carefully. But I guess I could see some of it. But I've got Northern Ontario roots, so I'd resist the Northern Ontario removal forever. And plus,
no, absolutely. And you know what? And I think and hopefully they're being careful. But I think for the people listening that are the traditionalists or diehard fans, there's a lot of things to consider, and I think they're doing that because I'm with you. I think the beauty of the Brier, it's the national thing. Exactly. So, but we'll see. Times are changing, right? So we'll see what happens.
All right, Brian, we finished with a run back. I give you a topic, and you give me your thoughts in 1 to 3 words.
1 to 3 words? Yeah. How is a broadcaster supposed to do that?
Unbelievable.
That's really impossible.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay, I'll try.
Nobody gets even close, to be honest, and I usually ramble on, so don't worry about it.
So I have to answer in 1 to 3 words?
1 to 3 words, your thoughts on the topic.
Okay.
Fake Kevin Martin on Twitter.
Hilarious.
Do you think you might have jumped the shark now, though? There's like a fake everything. I just opened a fake Bryan Mudryk, actually, so, I hope you don't mind.
I've been informed. My tweets are so boring anyways, so I mean, you probably improved my street cred.
Yeah, I think I'll do something about comparing your well-cut suits to E.J. Harnon's guns or something. And you've got 5 suits tailored better than any one of his, and you'll never find a tailor like that in the Sioux. Anyways, Linda Moore, Kathy Gauthier, and Russ Howard versus Eddie McKenzie.
Oh, easy win.
Easy win for you guys.
For us, sure.
You said it. Fitness levels among high-performance curlers.
Improving.
Yeah, improving pretty high this Brier, I think. You take maybe Sean Adams out of there. How about Sean Adams, Brad Gushu combination?
Not happening.
Yeah, I don't see it either. That's the chemistry's not there, and I don't know. Sean Adams playing third and moving a brush would be tough. Let's see here. How about a no-fly zone for Libya?
No comment.
No comment on that. How about the new Canadian Olympic trials process?
Good.
Charlie Sheen.
Oh, boy.
Gary Bettman.
3 words isn't enough. All I'll say is, Gary, let the NHLers play in Sochi.
Yeah, well, that would be good. But he's got some other things I think he should do, too. But and finally, Mike McEwen's comments after he lost the final to Jeff Stoughton in Manitoba.
Got to win, big guy.
Yeah.
He's got to win.
I think...
I like Mike a lot. I think he's a great curler and a good guy and a great talent. It's just... he'll be the first guy lined up to throw Jeff a retirement party whenever that happens.
Yeah.
But, you know what? And in all seriousness, though, I think I saw the comments, but stuff like that is easily taken out of context. And we always get so riled up when a curler says, oh, we're going to win this thing, or, we're the best. Well, then, you know what? Then why are you playing? You got to believe in yourself. You got to think you're going to win, or what's the point? So I'm sure he has a lot. I know he has a lot of respect for Jeff. He just, he feels that they got a great team and they're the future and they're going to play well. And if he doesn't think he's the best, representative of Manitoba, then maybe he shouldn't be in the sport, right? He's just confident.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think his comments were probably taken a little out of context, but it's fun to Jeff has always been a guy who says things people don't like. But one thing I've heard from people in Manitoba, they say, he said things I don't like, Jeff, but I can never say that they're not true. So I think as long as guys speak what they think is true, I think that's good for the game. So. Hey, Brian, I give all the teams, all the players around this show, I give them a chance to name their sponsors. I don't think you have a bunch of sponsors, but I do know that you battled cancer when you were younger and you have a charity golf tournament. I don't know if you want to mention that.
Yeah, no, I had it twice. Once when I was 17 and once when I was 19. Actually, well, it's funny now when I look back. I curled in one junior provincials in Alberta when I curled junior. And Taylor Field is the name of my skip that year. And we actually curled in Sundre, Alberta. And actually Mark Kennedy and Carter Rycroft were on a team together with Jeff Erickson that year. And they were awesome. They were an awesome team. And that was the year I'd started my chemotherapy, and I had to curl for a week with a Broviac tube in my chest.
Wow.
And they duct taped it so I could sweep. I was a third.
Wow.
So we unfortunately didn't win a game that week. It was a tough go, but
you won some fans, I bet, though.
Well, it's funny. I actually kept it pretty quiet. I didn't want it to be a distraction for my teammates. Even they didn't really know the whole extent of what I was going through. But that was an experience I'll never forget. And now, getting to call the games and being on the broadcast side of things, it's really a thrill. So it's BryanMudrykGolfClassic.com, and we have a website. And we raise money for the Alberta Cancer Foundation. That's where I was treated at the cross cancer in Edmonton. And we've raised about $500,000 in the last 8 years. So this year it's Saturday, June 18th, and we've had a lot of celebrity curlers come out for it and support it over the years. So we're pretty grateful for that. So I guess that's my sponsor. How's that?
Well, it's a great event, and good for you for giving back like you have with that and everything else. It's a great story. I've read some of the stuff you've written about it. It would be a real inspiration for any young kids who are battling that disease. So good for you. And hey, before we go real quick, you did mention, one thing on TSN. I used to get a sense when TSN, a few years back when they came back from curling to SportsCenter, some of those SportsCenter anchors seemed to have stopped just short of an eye roll when they talked about curling. But you were a curler. You love the game. Is there a sense that I get a sense now at TSN that they finally realize that this is a heck of a good media vehicle and a great Canadian sport?
Oh, no, I think they always have, for sure. I think, and I mean, this is above my head, and there's people that study all this stuff, but I mean, curling fans that love the curling, they're going to watch the curling on TSN, and they're going to really enjoy it. And for SportsCenter, I mean, they're obviously going to run some highlights and stuff. But as you know, if you're a real curling fan, you're watching the games.
Right.
You're likely not going to tune into SportsCenter to watch curling highlights, but you're obviously going to watch the games. And then obviously we have the on-demand. You can go on the website .ca and watch there as well. So, but no, it's funny. A lot of the guys are from Western Canada. A great example, Darren Dreger, who's our hockey insider. He's a big curling fan. Actually, I think he used to curl as a junior as well. He was a good curler. He actually picked Amber Holland to win it all. So I got to give Dreger props.
Give him props for that. My pick was Holman Kleibrink in the final, so I sort of tanked. What was your pick for the Scotties?
In all honesty, I picked Holland, and I picked Jennifer to be. My top three was Jennifer, Holland, and Holman.
Yeah.
And it was a toss-up, but I actually thought that Sasky would win. So I'm not to blow my horn. What do I know?
Yeah,
but
there you go. Whatever, Brian. Whatever.
Easy for me to say now, right?
Give me your picks next time, and I'll start doing that betting online on curling that you can do. But
right.
All right, Brian. Hey, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. I know you're busy out there. You seem to work from dawn till dusk, just about. But great job with the coverage. It's been good to have a young face at TSN. I think, like I say, I like to see that. I like to see the crowds a little less geriatric, and it's nice to see a younger guy in the booth there. So good for you.
Thanks, Dean. I'm having fun doing it, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's Bryan Mudryk on The Curling Show, a conversation that we had on Tuesday afternoon during this week's Tim Hortons Brier. Whether you hope to play in a Brier, a world championship, or just be able to beat Brian's rink at a charity bonspiel, pick up a copy of Fit to Curl by John Morris and start following a training program. The book is available at fittocurl.com and at Better Curling Pro Shops. Thanks for listening. Here's some pudding.